Hello and welcome to yesterday's Airlines, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the new release from Aviation400 of the Delta Airlines Airbus A350 N503DN. Now you're probably well aware that recently Delta Airlines has undertaken, or at least begun to undertake legal action against pretty much anybody who's making Delta Airlines models or even selling Delta Airlines models. But for some reason, probably because they couldn't find a contact address maybe, Aviation400 seemed to have avoided receiving this letter or being implicated in this. So they have been able to release this Delta A350, though I imagine that there are not going to be many more Delta models from Aviation400 or indeed anybody else in 400 scale aside from Geminijets who have the license. So in my opinion, that's bad for collectors. It's bad for the scale. I don't think, personally, that it makes a lot of sense for airlines to charge licensing fees for models, especially when they're such high quality ones. I can understand why they want to, and I can understand why they've been prompted to by certain groups, but I do not think it is beneficial to the collector or really anyone aside from the airline who's basically getting some revenue for something which basically, they don't need. If anything, these models are beneficial to Delta anyway. So for me, I don't care about licensing for models. I personally think it's rather pointless. It certainly rarely relates to the quality of the model. There have been a wide range of very poor models produced under license agreements. Cathay's Herper range, for example, are almost universally rubbish, but nonetheless, they are licensed. So the airline isn't paying a lot of oversight to what is being produced. They're just collecting some money and clipping the ticket for something which is really, I guess it's their image rights, but hell, at this rate, you could take a photo of a Delta airline and sell that picture to someone, and Delta would want you to give them some money. It's a bit stupid. Anyway, nonetheless, we're here to discuss the model and not the situation with Delta, which I don't know a great deal about. But let's take a look at this Aviation400 model in detail. Now, before I start the review, obviously, if you enjoy the video and like the work I do, then subscribe to the channel. Check me out on Instagram, check me out on Facebook at Yes to Airlines, and obviously check out the website where the vast majority of my content is created. Okay, now in terms of the review itself, as always with my detailed reviews, it's split into three sections. We go for a maximum potential score of 30, and that can be 10 for the mold itself, 10 for the recreation of the livery, and 10 for the printing and the quality control. So without further ado, let's get in and get a closer look at this A350. Okay, so on to the first part of the review, which is going to take a look at the Aviation400 A350-900 mold. Now, Aviation400 only appeared as a manufacturer brand, or reappeared, should I say, a few years ago, and the A350 was pretty much their first and certainly has been their most important mold. I think it is overall an excellent mold, and certainly I've based the majority of my A350 purchases around it. And if we take a closer look at this model, we can perhaps begin to understand why that is. So maybe I'll put her up on the container here. Now, the first thing about A350s has been that people have had many reservations historically about the shape of the nose. And if we have a look at the nose on this A350 here, then you can see that the shape is really very good. We're going to get the camera to focus. It's got a really good nose shape, and when this mold first came out, it was up against the jcwings Gemini A350 and the Phoenix A350, neither of which had a nose which was anywhere near as good as this one. So this nose is really nice. It's got a really good set of angles down here. It's not necessarily 100% accurate, but it must be in the 90s. It's a really good shape. And also it's got this really nice nose gear, and recently Aviation400 has been making some changes here. They've decreased the size of the nose gear tyre down here, which was previously too large, and they've also painted it in this this more metallic colour as well. So it's good to see Aviation400 are the kind of brand which have been making changes to the mould as they go along. Now, the other thing that Aviation400 are obviously renowned for is the beacon lights up here, and you can see that we've got a beacon light on the top here. So these are little bits of translucent plastic which look really nice and shine in the light, as you can see. It's a really nice touch, and I think it works really well, especially on the A350 mould. Also, we've got some really good detailing with the aerials, one above, one beneath here, and moving across, you can see that we've got some really nice wing attachment, and we've got some really nice engine pylons with some really well hung engines. And this again was an area which on some of the other molds, especially the Phoenix mold originally, was an area of weakness. I think it's got a really nice set of main landing gear here as well. No real problems there. And if we move around to the front of the mold and take a look inside the engines, you can see that we've got see-through engines, albeit ones where the fan blades are perhaps a little too thin. In fact, these are some of the thinnest fan blades I've seen on a 400 scale model. I think that some of the other molds maybe carry off the see-through blades on the A350 slightly nicer, but nonetheless the engines overall are pretty damn good. Now moving towards the rear of the plane, another area of strength here is the tail area. Really good shape at the tail cone, and really the vertical stabilizer in general, and the horizontal stabs, all really high quality. So you can see really that this mold is pretty excellent. Most of the key elements are there. We've got the major, I assume it's the Wi-Fi dome here on the rear. It's a little bit from the side, not quite the teardrop shape it should be. It's a little bit flat, but it attaches nicely to the fuselage. And overall, this is a really, really nice rendition of an A350. So for me, I've never had any real problems with making this the core of my A350 fleet. And this Delta example is looking really, really impressive as well. So yeah, I think that maybe, you know, the nose isn't maybe quite as nice as on the NG version, and I think maybe the fan blades aren't quite as good as on some of the other versions as well. I think the jcwings has got very nice fan blades, but overall we're building up a really attractive A350 here. And even though there, as I say, we've had the NG mold out more recently, I don't really have any major issues with continuously buying these Aviation400 ones, because they're so nicely put together. And if you like the extra detail of the beacon lights, which I do like, I think it does show really nicely, then, you know, it's looking great. And you can see again there's a beacon light also on the underside of the plane, just here between the D and the E. Really, really nice detail. So for me, I think that the Aviation400 A350 is a really, really super mold. Is it a 10 out of 10? Maybe not quite a 10 out of 10, but I think here we're looking very much at a 9 out of 10, and we're approaching 10, I think. I think it's a really, really good mold. So super happy with the Aviation400 A350. Okay, so on to the livery. Now, Delta has got a pretty simple livery, but it actually is possibly one of my favourite modern liveries. Admittedly, this is quite a low bar because most of them aren't very exciting, but it's a really tasteful scheme. It's certainly, probably prefer it to the previous wavy gravy Delta Flot scheme, and certainly prefer it to the Ron Allen Landau colours. Obviously, it doesn't beat the original classic widget, but it's a lovely scheme, really nice colours. This deep blue and the two-tone red on the widget logo here, which really pleasingly incorporates not just the widget, but also, you know, the Northwest point here for the heritage that they gained with the acquisition of Northwest. And you can see that the model itself has some really nice colours. It's got the reds and the blue. I think they look good. I think the colours are nice. In some pictures, I think the Delta Blue looks a bit lighter, but in lots it looks darker, and I think it looks really nice as dark. I think that the colours here are very, very good. And overall, it's quite a simple scheme, but you've still got to get the details right, and Aviation400, I think, have. So we've got a really nice blue belly curve here, which rolls around the fairing really nicely there. And again, if we put it up on the plastic container, I think that the line of this works really nicely, and overall haven't got any major issues with the location of those elements, and certainly the tail is looking really good too. And obviously Aviation400 don't skimp on details like having the fleet number on the top of the tail here, which, here we go, get it focus, you know, looks really good, 3503. So they've got all the details right here. It's looking really nice in those areas. Now, if I flip over to the belly, obviously one of the things that Delta's begun to do is put on this big belly logo, as many airlines have in recent years, which I think is a really cool idea. It certainly makes spotting them from the air look a great deal easier. And I think, again, that in general here, this is looking nice. Having said that, if we talk about the titles, and we move over here to look at the titles, then this is the only area of real criticism I can have with the rendition of the livery. Yeah, they look pretty good, and they're roughly the right size and in the right place, but I don't think that Aviation400 has quite got the font here correct. One of the interesting things about the Delta font here is that the horizontal parts of the letters, like the bottom of the L and the cross on the T at the top here, should be thinner than the vertical parts, and they may be slightly thinner, but they're not thin enough here. And it's not quite correct. And again, the A here, if that crossbar was thinner, it would look more realistic. It would have a bigger white space inside it, which is what the titles on the real thing look like. So I think, again, Aviation400 here have not quite got the font correct there. And again, that transponds or transfers over to the belly, where it's not so bad on the L and T here, but certainly the space inside the A here is not quite the right size. So this is a fairly minor point, and I don't want to labour it, but I think that's, you know, worthy of losing a point. But in every other respect, I think that AV400 have got the logos and the model pretty much accurate. So no major complaints elsewhere. So again, I think it's probably, for me, another 9 out of 10 in this space for what is a good rendition of one of my favourite liveries. Okay, so up onto the stand for the final portion of the review, which is around printing quality and the build quality. Now, I hope you've, you know, in my previous review for the Southwest 737, several people asked to see more detailed close-ups of the model, so I'm trying to do that here in this video, as I hope you can see. So let's dive in and try and look in more detail at the aeroplane and look at the printing quality here and see, you know, what we think about this. Let's get the camera focus. Here we go. It speaks for itself, really, doesn't it? The printing quality on this model is really impressive. There are several manufacturers in 400 scale that will never get anywhere near this kind of printing quality nowadays, and Aviation400 is right at the top with the capability to do that. There's a huge amount of detail on the doors. You've got this little white, sorry, not white, the little yellow and black area down here, which is on the actual airplane, and it, you know, it looks just like that. You've got this area behind the door here. I'm not entirely sure what it is. It looks kind of like a keypad, but it's obviously not. And that's definitely on the plane as well. I mean, it's really, really attractive. You've got all the pilot tube entries here. It look great. There's a huge amount of detail printing going on. Obviously, you've got the beacon lights I talked about earlier, and moving across, you've got a huge amount of detail across the board, really, on the aeroplane from a print perspective. You've got these, you know, don't cut here in emergency panels. Now, one thing that I did see was missing, which is a really, really small point, I'm not knocking points off for this, is that on the nose gear doors, there's a little, on the real thing, there's a little red marking at the back of the door there, which says no tow, but it's a tiny, tiny point. I mean, this is a really, really impressively printed model, as I hope in the video showing here. And overall, again, you can see that it's well put together as well. There's nothing hanging off. I've not had any problems with parts that are loose. You can see the engines look great. The undercarriage looks good. Really good detailing and construction. Aerials are all in nicely. There's really nothing here which I can pick apart. I think the printing on this model is exemplary, and the look of the model is really, really, really nice. So printing and quality control are scoring a max here. I don't think there's a lot more to say other than this is an excellent model. Again, if we take another brief look at the underside, you can see that they've done really good work here, printing things like, oh, main gear doors. Hello, Phoenix. Do you print main gear doors on all your aircraft? No. Hardly a minor point to miss off, but you can see here, not only are they printed in this beautiful fine detail and across the whole bottom of the fuselage. Even though you've got this dark belly, there's a load of really, really impressive detail. And I like the fact that Aviation400, as I say, have been making changes. They're now putting their undercarriage legs in this silver colour rather than a light grey, which is a nice touch to see that kind of improvement. And yeah, can't fault the build and the printing on this model. It looks superb. Okie doke. So let's move on to the last part, the conclusion. So in summary here, we've got an awesome model. Now, regardless of whether you think models should be licensed or not licensed, clearly it hasn't had an impact on the capability of Aviation400 to produce a beautiful Delta A350 in this case. The mold's great. The livery looks awesome, and the print quality is out of this world, really. It's a real testament to the quality which we often are capable of seeing now in 400 scale models in 2021, that you can produce models like this, which it's very hard to see how they could be improved. Obviously, I've knocked a couple of points off, so it's getting a score of 28 out of 30, but that's an excellent score, and I really think that these Aviation400 A350s compete very nicely with the ngmodels versions, and also the jcwings Gemini mold, which has been updated, but I still don't quite like as much as this one or the NG. So I really think these are great models. I really think that this particular example is really nice. If you're a collector of Delta, as I know many people are, then I would struggle to see how you'd miss out acquiring this model, especially seeing as there aren't going to be many more coming your way soon, except from Gemini, and I personally prefer this mold to theirs. So yeah, it's a great model, a really nicely produced aircraft, and definitely worth the purchase price. So thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this review. I probably will take a look at A350s in general in another video. I've certainly already done a review of the A350 molds on my site, so check that out if you haven't already. And as always, I'll see you in the next video, where hopefully we'll get to see some more interesting models and new samples which we've got coming up. So keep an eye out for yesterday's airlines. Thanks very much for watching. See you later.